Hello and welcome back. We are here with Gabriella, who will be joining us today. Hello, hello, hello.
Hi.
So I'll let her introduce herself in a minute, but as you've probably seen from the title of this video, we're going to be discussing the effects of lockdown and how some of you, based on the Instagram interactions, how some of you might have struggled, what you've done to counteract that, and obviously me and you, Gabs, will have a little chat about what we've done and things like that. And yeah, we'll just share experiences and we'll see where it goes. So do you want to introduce yourself again and let us
Yeah,
know where we can find you?
I love it. No worries. Hi, I'm Gabriella. I'm a spiritual coach, psychic, animal communicator, and a healer, condensing it. And yeah, I love what I do. I've always loved helping people and animals, and I'm just super excited to be here. I love working with Jay.
So you might have seen on Instagram as well, throwing that out there, that we did a podcast. So if you haven't had a chance to check that out,
Yeah,
just
go
have a
check
little
it out.
scroll through. The video equivalent of that will be coming to the channel at some point.
Yes.
We just don't know when. So I'll just kick start. My first question is like, how have you coped with lockdown over the last year?
Yeah, so do you know what I found super interesting is I've always come across a very social person, and I was kind of like, yeah, no, I like people. I don't have a problem with people. But actually what I learned about lockdown was I needed way more solitude time than I realized that I needed to actually recoup and recover. Like I wasn't giving myself enough time in the real world, so to speak, to allow that process for myself. And I have a very unpopular opinion on lockdown for a lot of people. I know people have struggled with it, and I have struggled. I want to point that out real quick. But genuinely, overall, I like lockdown has been one of the best things for me personally, in a lot of different ways. And I've said that to you before, and we'll touch on that as well. But yeah, that's kind of my unpopular opinion.
And I know this is a shared belief that we both had. It's about, even in like the crappiest times, I don't even know
Yes.
if I get censored for that, who knows, but even though it was a very hard and a dark time
Yeah,
or whatever, you have to kind of shift your focus,
absolutely.
finding like that silver lining, or being like, actually I can't change the situation as a whole, but what I
Yeah,
can change is my environment and my headspace
absolutely.
and my response to it.
Yes.
And echoing, like, I absolutely struggled, especially in the beginning, being
Yes,
away from
that
my
first month.
family, being away from my little nephew. That was so hard. And I'm not a phone person. I don't want to talk to you on the phone. I don't want to FaceTime. Like, not in the nicest way possible. It doesn't do anything for me. Like, I want to
Yeah.
see someone. I want to touch them and hug them and feel them and
Yeah.
lick them. No, I'm joking. I might start that up again once we're out of lockdown. But it just didn't do anything for me. And that first month in lockdown was a struggle.
Yeah.
And
Yes. Well,
again, it was like, right, I need to take this as like a retreat for myself.
yeah.
So I've got the time to focus on eating better, going back through like my own routine, which included things like affirmations and journaling and meditating and
Yeah.
yoga and stuff, like doing that
Yeah.
was amazing. But, and even dealing, like, I've had a lot of losses
Yeah.
over the last year, which have again really just affected me differently than they would have done if
Yeah.
I had work as a distraction and things like that. Um,
I think as well, sometimes with just picking up on the word you use there, distraction, I feel like that's so much of the issue. We're constantly distracting ourselves and taking ourselves away from our feelings rather than actually acknowledging them and allowing ourselves to feel them. And then rather than getting to feel them and move through them, we hold them and contain them because we're trying to avoid them. And like, so I think in some ways it's helpful as well.
and I do believe as well, sometimes people are unaware that they're distracting themselves.
Absolutely. You're just like, oh, I'm just focusing on this thing. Like, oh, good. And I do you know what? I feel like that's some of why a lot of people have struggled in lockdown. And I do want to touch on my first month as well, in a minute. But I feel like that's why a lot of people have struggled, because you've been on such a hamster wheel. You've been on such a like, I'm doing stuff. Like, I'm good. I'm like work. Yeah, I'm moving forward. We're fine. We're on like this autopilot. And so having everything stop and you can't do any of those things to distract yourself, even though that's not what your intention was, you're suddenly sitting with yourself by yourself and you're like, oh, here's all this stuff. Ta-da. And I feel like that's why a lot of people have really felt it this time.
And I do think that's one of the reasons why some people may struggle when you ask them to sit and meditate or sit in their own company and they get so uncomfortable, is because you have no other way to look other than inwards. And they're like, oh, actually my job isn't,
that's not fun.
or this relationship isn't serving me. Do you know what I mean? And and it was, what's been really interesting is I threw up on the socials yesterday prior to filming this about people's experiences. And the first question I asked was, have you struggled in lockdown? Now, 73% at this time of filming have said yes.
Yeah.
27% had said no. And I just found that quite an interesting ratio.
Yeah.
When I asked, have you struggled with staying motivated and being positive, it was slightly more. It was at 76 for yes.
Yeah.
So again, it's almost, what I took from that was actually lockdown might have played a factor, but if you was able to stay positive and motivated prior to lockdown, you coped better with it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel like, I don't know if you've noticed this, but I definitely feel like this, what is it, third lockdown we're in or something. I feel like this one here, one of the numbers, I feel like I noticed this one hit everyone so much more. I feel, because I was saying this to my mum and a couple of other people, I said it wasn't an intentional thing, but I feel like so many people thought when we hit 2021, it was like, it's the new year, bye-bye. And like, I know that's kind of the hope a lot of people wanted, but I feel like when we entered into 2021 and everyone was like, oh, it's still here, damn it. Like, I don't know if I can say that, sorry.
God damn it.
That everyone was like, just got a little deflated by it, is what I noticed from the people around me anyway. I feel like this one hit them harder, I think, than even the first one.
And I think the biggest thing was the first lockdown or two, whatever, we had the summer weather to go out and to, even if you was on your own, go for a walk, which was a little bit better. And then we had the Christmas to look forward to. Then we had Christmas to go through. Whereas in the new year, you set your like New Year's resolutions, and it's supposed to be that really motivating time to like lose weight, or I don't know, whatever people's goals are. And it's like, oh, I'm actually a little bit more limited with what I can do now because I can't really go out. The weather's a bit pants. And
I feel like that's another thing as well, is, and you know, I want to highlight, like, I'm human and I felt this myself, right? I swear. So this isn't ever a judgment, but like, I feel like so many people are so much more comfortable in the excuses of, you know, the weather's not nice, so I can't exercise. And it's like, but we have a home space. Like, and I'm guilty of this. I'm not, like I said, not a judgment. But it's like, you have the home space, we have technology, we have YouTube videos, we have spaces where we can still stretch our bodies, move our bodies, but we kind of get comfortable in that space of, these are all the reasons I can't, and so that's my list full, we're good. And I feel like that can outweigh sometimes.
And the biggest thing I've noticed is the amount of people that have jumped in to offer those levels of services, and how many have actually done that for free. Like, I completely understand, like, again, like, oh, there's things that I've charged for because we have to still survive.
Absolutely, we have to still pay our bills at the end of the day. Like,
and
I don't know about, actually no, I do kind of know with you, because for me, I went full-time self-employed in January. Like, I already had my business. I already had my business, but I was doing it alongside working in a supermarket. So that was my full money, was the supermarket, not my business. And in January, I was like, do you know what? The energy feels right. I feel ready. And I went for it. And I went full-time self-employed at the end of January. And then March hit and I was full on panic attacks. I was like, oh my God, world over. Just meltdown mode, right? And so I didn't get any help. I was worth nothing to the government. So I basically had to, nothing, not a penny. So I basically was just like, refocused my energy. I was like, this can either destroy me, or I can dive into it and try and do something with it and put my energy into this, rather than leaning into that fear and leaning into that insecurity of like, what does this mean? I can just see what I can do and see what happens in that month, and start working on changing my perspective, changing my mindset, working on my relationship with money and moving through it. So, you know, it bears its own challenges, but yeah, there was a point there. I wondered. I can't remember what it was.
Listen, as long as it makes sense, it's all good. It's all good. So if you could, what would you say your top 3 tips or your top 3 things were that you either did or found yourself doing to kind of reprogram or reset your mindset in lockdown?
100%. So the first thing was I had to feel it. Like, I'm someone who very much tries to, and again, this is something I'm working on, but I tend to internalize, I contain. And that was something that it was physically impossible to contain. I had to let it out. I just bawled my eyes out. I fully cried, was super just like red-faced. I had to let it out. That was such a key part of it, because if I had contained that, if I had held that, it would have stopped my progress. It would have stopped me, because it would have sat within me and continuously been a factor in how I move forward and dealt with stuff. I would have been coming from emotion and fear rather than the change in my mindset that I'd allowed myself. So the first thing was you've got to feel what you need to feel at the end of the day, right? But also you have to, and the kind of counteractive flip side of it is you have to feel it, but you have to not let it dictate. Like, you can't let that emotion run what you do and how you react, because at the base of it is, it's an emotion, it's not a fact. So the first thing was to feel it. The second was, I already do, like, a lot of mindset work anyway, but I knew my money mindset needed some serious TLC. And especially given kind of the situation, I was like, I need to start having a better connection and relationship with my money now, to stop fearing it and stop feeling like I'm not worth that money. And so I started doing some, I worked a bit with Denise Duffield Thomas. That was a big jump for me. That was, and there I kind of want to touch on listening to your intuition and trusting yourself, because externally that looked like a dumb decision, because that was not cheap. And I had no buffer, I had no savings, I had nothing. I want to preface that as well, right? I had zero safety net for this.
Wow.
And I think it was June that I signed up. So March, April, May, June, I think I signed up for Denise.
So like quite a long into the lockdown.
Yeah, a couple of months into lockdown. And that was like, that course is like over $1,000. Like, it's not a cheap course. Worth it. I want to preface, it is worth it. And I paid like in monthly installments. And again, the monthly installments are like 300 or quid on top of all the other bills that I was paying anyway, right? Because we all have bills to pay. But I knew my money mindset was such a key factor to start moving me forward. I had to invest in myself. So, and investing in yourself, I want to be clear, doesn't have to be financial, but for me, it was something that needed to be that way. But investing in yourself during this time could be looking after your mind, body, soul, right? That is a factor as well. That is stuff I needed to do as well. So look at, is there something you can incorporate into your daily routine, daily practice that is going to serve your mind, body, soul? So investing in yourself during this time is more crucial than ever, I feel. And then just actually tuning in with yourself, listening to yourself. What serves, what doesn't? Have you noticed since it's not been near you has actually made you feel lighter or has stressed you out more? Start tuning into those things that are part of your daily life and going, do I actually feel better now this is not in my daily life? Is this something I need to change long term? Or is this something that actually I need to have more of in my life? Do I need to have more fun maybe? Like, start breaking everything down and looking at it. And I would say kind of those are my 3 areas I think are super important for moving through.
And just following from what you said, the amount of people that I know, obviously in my very limited bubble in comparison to like the world, those that haven't struggled as much are the ones that have actually said, do you know what, like, this is time that I can, like you said, invest in myself. And they're coming out of lockdown with like additional courses or qualifications that they were able to do like over a month or 2, whereas if we were working full time, that would have been like a 6-month process or I don't know, whatever. And they're like, yeah, like, it's been really beneficial for me, for my business, for this, for that. And I'm like, that's so cool. Like, I love that. But, it hasn't been like that for everyone. But again, it's like, well, and we spoke about this yesterday when we were having a chat.
Yeah.
It's that idea of, well, actually, I've got time that's not filled with anything. I choose what I fill my time with. Like right now, I'm choosing to fill my time with you. and after this I'll choose probably to fill it with food.
Yes.
But it's that idea of actually in any given moment there's always possibility, or there's always a chance or an option,
And there's always
and
choices. And I feel like we deny ourselves choices a lot of the time. Old stories, old patterns, old belief systems, we take away, or we feel our choices have been taken away. And that's when we give our power away. That's when we kind of discredit ourselves and don't start to reclaim stuff. And I want to be clear in that it's okay if all you did was recover during this time. Like, it doesn't matter if you didn't do courses, workshops, launch a business. Like, that's not the point that we're trying to make, right?
like I
Sometimes you
kid
just
you
need to
not,
heal.
I think it was April. Yeah, so we went into lockdown. Well, I went into lockdown with March from work. April,
Yeah.
I was like probably dead to the world. If you messaged me, you'd. I mean, I'm like the worst responder anyway. Like, we know
Yes,
this,
he
right?
is, guys. It's
Like,
terrible.
it probably took me a month. I came off Facebook, which
Mhm.
was one of the best things I did,
Yeah.
and I did that I think definitely twice, maybe 3 times last year.
Yeah.
Even Instagram, I posted like maybe just to my story.
I was going to say, I think I said to you as well, didn't I? Was it yesterday, maybe, when we were talking, that I said one of the best lessons I learned, even in the past few months, was to be a content creator, not a content consumer, because I was overwhelming
I wrote
myself.
that down. Loved
Yeah.
it.
I was overwhelming myself with everyone else's stuff, and then I wasn't giving myself space and energy to do what I needed to do. And
But
so that was the biggest change for me.
But this was the thing, I think. I have a lot of I obviously have expectations of what I want for myself, but I feel sometimes a lot of people expect a lot of me. And the minute we went into lockdown, a lot of people were like, "You're doing this," and I was like, "Actually, no, I'm not.
Yeah.
I need to just be me, and I need to
Have your
actually just have a
boundaries.
chat with myself and say, right, what do I need? What was I not doing? What do I need to do?"
Yeah.
And like I said, like, I really disconnected, and a few people took it personally, and I'm like, it's not you. Like, if you think it's you, like, that's your thing. I can't help that, but
Yeah, absolutely.
I need to be me.
Yeah.
And yeah, like that. I just remember that first month. Like I said, it was a struggle, and I really retreated and did what I had to do. But it was time that you can never give back to yourself. Like, in our lifetime, who gets like essentially, and I know this isn't for everyone, but those are a year off work or a year working from home, where if you need to take that break, you can go and sit for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes.
I was going to say, that's been one of my best things is, I didn't get a year off work, but I got a year off of having to travel, because 2 days a week at a minimum, I was traveling into London for my business, for my work. And you say what you want, it's exhausting. That was 2 days, and some people are doing it 5 days a week normally, right? And being able to listen to my body and go, do you know what? Even though I've got these plans for today, I'm going to spend an hour just allowing my body to sit, or to read a book, have a bath, do something that's going to serve my energy, and then start my day, and not feel like I had to be restricted to a time. And obviously, I'm going to highlight that is a privilege of being self-employed. Like, I appreciate that's not necessarily the same for everyone if you're doing like 9 to 5 still at home, but you still have a little bit more space and breathing room when you're at home, is my personal experience anyway.
And I always think, like, if you're not, like, your home is supposed to be like your home.
Yeah.
Like, if you're not happy or content in your home, then again, like, I'd be like, oh, do you know what I mean? Like, your bedroom is supposed to like make you feel a certain way. Your kitchen is supposed to make you feel a certain way. Or like when you have a bath or a shower, you're supposed to feel like
that. I feel like, and I don't know if anyone else agrees with this, but lockdown again highlighted that for me. Like, I made do a lot. I was like, this, it will do for now, it will do for now. Like, the room I'm sitting in now is technically my bedroom, but I slept downstairs for like a year because I didn't have a bed, because I knew at the beginning of lockdown my priority had to be my business, and I needed to make this a workspace that was functional, that felt work, so that when I got up here, that's what my intention and my focus was. That was something I needed to do for myself. It's not going to work for everyone, right? But I invested in then getting a new, better desk, some storage, and the whole space up here has changed phenomenally. And I don't think I would have done that if we hadn't have had lockdown, because I would have carried on making do and being like, that's all right, but the energy wasn't good enough. It's great now. But I think so much we make do because we're doing other stuff.
And again, I know people might be a bit like, is it though? But things like your bedroom or your car are a reflection of the
So
state of your
yeah,
mind.
100%,
And even if
100%.
your bedroom might be immaculate, but if you open your wardrobe and you're like, yeah, right. And I, for a number of reasons, had to like bring in a load of like rubbish from a place of storage and stuff, and I was just like, wow, like I've got a lot of poop. Like, what
Yeah,
do I do with it? And it was a bit like, oh, am I going to use this again? I've invested like a lot of money in these. Like, I've got
right.
13 aerobic steps. Like, what am I
Right.
going to do with them?
I think I cleared out like 6 times during lockdown, repeatedly. I would go over everything and be like, nope, nope, clear it out, clear it out, clear it out. And the energy changes with it. And so much of the stuff you don't actually need or has been sat there just in case, just in case I'm going to need it.
But it's even like with cleaning, like I appreciate those that know me know I'm a little bit of a clean freak, or
Yeah.
just like I'm a bit of a hincher, but I found I was cleaning not because of COVID, but because I was like, I actually just want this room or my space to be fresh and clear and
Yeah.
clean. Like, I'm a kind of person, I want nothing on my worktops. I don't want like and I tell you what, and I know there's one here. This is like the only thing in my house, this canvas, and that's going. I hate things on walls that are like photos, and like I'm sure I should be like locked in a white room, but I like plain things, fresh, white, this, that, whatever.
See,
And
I love clean spaces, but I like, long story short, let's not go into this, but like I have executive dysfunction. Like I that's part of my neurodiversity. And no matter how much I want to keep a space gorgeous, physically cannot do it. I have to have stuff places to remind me. So it always looks super chaotic to anyone else. But to me, it makes sense because that's there for this purpose. That's there because of this. And so I find that really difficult because I enjoy a clean, tidy space, but to function, I actually can't have like immaculate. It doesn't work for me.
so it's so interesting. Like, we're
Yeah.
basically the opposite, but
Yeah.
we're saying that you have to find what works for you, right?
Absolutely, 100%. You've got, the thing is, like, you can listen to all the tips and tricks in the world, and I'm not saying it's not good to do so, but take what resonates, leave what doesn't. Like, like, yeah, because not everything is going to benefit you and your energy. Not everything's going to serve who you are as a person. Certain experiences, certain ways of doing things are going to serve people in certain ways, but that doesn't mean that it's going to be the way that you need to have it done. Don't be afraid to play around with it. Don't be afraid to change it. Like, it's
But I
fine.
think that's so important, especially in like my fitness background. We always say to people that, like, just because a diet or a workout routine works for one person and they got those results, you are different. Your body's different. Your genetics are different. Your response to
Your
things are different.
body.
And even like we're talking about, just the space you're in, you might think your lifestyle works for you. Actually,
Mhm.
if there's a form of resistance somewhere, then obviously it's not.
Listen to the resistance. Anything you feel uncomfortable, like one of the best ways that I can explain this is when I show people, like, there's a deck of cards my mom created, and we've learned this through when she was creating them. There are certain images, certain cards that made us feel mega uncomfortable at the time. And it was like, we need to look at why that makes us uncomfortable, because there is always a reason, right? There was one card called Mission that for ages I was like, oh, like, it made me feel horrible. And now that I'm in my service and I love what I'm doing, I love that card. It's gorgeous. And I think it's really important to look at the stuff that actually makes you uncomfortable and ask yourself why.
Funny, in my head I want to laugh. So I'm like, this ties in so nicely. But
Love
well
it.
done, you.
Thank you.
So obviously on the socials, I asked people like,
Yeah.
the question was, what were your biggest obstacles and what was the biggest thing that you've learned? And again, just condensing all of these, a lot of them was the restrictions around not being able to see people, hug people, obviously restrictions of just not even wanting to go shopping, but just being able to like wander through
Just go, yeah.
The biggest one for me, and again, there was quite a few about spouses or learning that actually a partner or a family member just is a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you the biggest one that came out that I was like, wow, was the fact that a lot of people were still in lockdown not making time for themselves. And I was like,
It's amazing,
you
right?
have
So
no
many people.
excuse now. Like, do you know what I mean?
People find a reason to ignore and step away from the stuff that makes them uncomfortable. Like they will find a reason to like, and it's not always intentional. It's not something they were like, oh, that's uncomfortable, I'm going to ignore it. But again, people I find are still making reasons as to why they can't do something. But I always say, like with meditation, right? Even a minute a day can make such an incredible impact. And people are like, oh, but it's still like I have to find a minute. It's actually like, right, well, how much time did you spend on TikTok? How much time did you scroll, right? What's serving you better, really? What is giving you more service? What's doing better
But
for
even
you?
prior to lockdown, when I teach like relaxation classes, yoga, stretch, anything like that, or even like mindfulness stuff, I say to people, if in a 24-hour window you cannot find 10 minutes, something is wrong. And I'm like,
100%.
average kettle takes 2.5 to 3 minutes to boil.
Do other kettle boils.
But like, if you're making 2 or 3 cups a day, you've got time. And I'm like,
100%.
we just, this is just the way that we've been conditioned, and we're grown up to be yes men or yes women, yes people. And like, at what point did we stop saying yes to ourselves? And there's a massive difference
because we
between.
got told that it was selfish. It's because we've always been told anything to do with being us, to looking after us, is selfish.
Yeah.
And honestly, like, might be a bit of a devil advocate thing to say, but like, I honestly feel like the where that's come from is a space of taking people's power away. Because the second you invest in yourself, you look after energy, you become a better version of yourself, you become pretty unstoppable in a lot of ways. You learn that there are no restrictions on stuff. And then you're kind of limitless, and that's scary for people, right?
And I tell you, and this absolutely is not me being like a conspiracist or anything like that. But in the beginning, this is just observational, but in the beginning of lockdown, what I found was obviously people were in fear and panic.
Yeah.
And a lot of self-employed people, or a lot of people that were running their own businesses, were like, wow, maybe I need to go back into corporate or go back into employment.
Yeah.
But over the last year, what I've noticed is that, because like you said, the people that I've seen that have invested in themselves, or at least utilized the opportunity, like, are exploding because we're spending more time on social media. Mm-hmm. They've been able to, I don't know, order things in or do this, and their business has like boomed.
Yeah.
Because they've said, actually, I've got nothing else to do other than.
That's it. They've committed to it. And like, I'm going to put my hands up for like 100%. I've had my business for years. I only committed to it in 2020. Like, I had it for years and it sat there and I didn't utilize it, and I had fear and I did all this stuff. And beginning of 2020, for me, an energy thing shifted, and I was like, I know now's the time. Like, I know now is when I need to commit and actually show up and start doing the work, because this is where I want to be. I don't want to be stuck in this. No offense to the supermarket. It's cool if you enjoy working there. It drained my soul to work there. And I was like, this is not what I want for my life. I need to start committing to stuff. And it's when people commit that things start to change. And I feel like it's with anything. You commit to yourself, you commit to a relationship, you commit to self-improvement, your business, whatever it is, committing and showing up is what's going to make the difference to anything that you do.
And again, like prior lockdown, like I committed myself to work, and I worked essentially 7 days for like almost 10 years.
Yeah.
So in lockdown, I was like, the last thing I want to do is invest more into that. So I didn't have that guilt of I should be doing this. I was like, and I was like, no, actually, I deserve just to rest.
Yeah, absolutely.
And obviously, once you've taken that time, like, you're like, cool, now I can get back on the horse. But my biggest thing, and I really mean this wholeheartedly, is I really hope, as a community or as like people, we come out of lockdown and we don't forget this time next year.
Yeah, do you know what? That's one of my biggest things that I really hope people hold on to. And I feel like there should be long-term change from this. Like, I feel like there's a lot of, hopefully, realizations that people have had that go like, life shouldn't be this way. Like, we are supposed to be able to, like, there are so many countries that their work schedules are so much more relaxed, detached, so that they can have a work-life balance. And we've not been one of those people. We've not been one of those countries.
So
and I feel like No, leaning into that, I feel was, you know, it could make a huge impact on people's mental health as well. Like to actually have space, to have a balance rather than work taking over everything, I think is huge.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, like we now know, even scientifically, that when the mind is in a healthy space, the body responds to that. And I was just obviously I was interjecting rudely. Sorry, I was
No,
just
go.
that obviously, like we're both Greek, but in
Yeah.
Cyprus, again, work life is so different.
Oh, yes.
And what I one of the things that I like about going to Cyprus is that the focus isn't on work life, it's on family life still, and you
Yeah.
do still sit around, or at least my circle of
Well,
people. We
no,
still,
no. I feel like it's
yeah,
Greek culture. It's not just Cyprus because, like, we're on a harbour, and a lot of my family have different businesses, right? They have restaurants or bars or whatever, and they will work when they work. Like, they will they will be run through, but they will also make time to sit. They will stop and they will have a conversation with someone, and they will make sure that they have a life balance as well. Like, you will see them in between when there's a gap, sitting and having a coffee at the beach and relaxing and enjoying it and not feeling guilt for that. If we stop for 5 minutes doing a job, oh my God, the guilt most people feel for having a break. And it's like, that you should have a break. Like, there
I
should be
know,
more of a balance and a, you know?
and obviously it does happen, but what the biggest thing I do see, and this isn't just because of the weather and the culture, but is like coffee shops are massive out there, and
Huge.
it's the norm to meet up and have a coffee,
Yeah.
not be on your phones or at the
No.
dinner table, like to be invested in who's at the table. And
Yeah.
I grew up obviously over here in England, but every Sunday we had dinner with like family,
Yeah.
and that's still a thing. And the whole, you know, when they used to have this their like half days, or like they had the 2 hour lunch breaks, everyone would go
Yeah.
home for lunch, and it's just
Yeah.
being
We
present
have
with who
lunch.
you are.
Lunch lasts like 2 hours. It's not like a
So
five
happy with
minute
that.
thing, get up and leave, right? It's like a 2 hour job.
But it's that investment in actually right here, right now, I'm with my people, or I'm with my family, or I'm with my friends. And I very, very, very rarely see us sitting at the table with on our phones.
Oh,
Or
100%.
and again, when you look at like Mediterranean lifestyle, I believe that's one of the reasons why, in terms of health, they do live longer, they do have better health.
100%.
Obviously, you've got
100%.
factors like weather and things like that, and the food.
Yeah,
But
obviously the food
definitely
is like insane quality. Like, it's always homegrown or local grown and done well. But yeah, there are factors of the fact that they also, like, even when stuff's really stressful, I'm not saying they don't feel stressed, because I know they do.
yeah, of course.
I know we do. But it's always like, we can deal with it tomorrow. There's just a more laid
Relax.
back approach to stuff. Like, and that's
Laid back
not
is the correct word.
always the best. Like, sometimes they could maybe not say tomorrow, but generally I think it really helps that they have that space to give themselves that family time, that switch off time, and that work isn't everything. Like, even if there are stresses around, money or whatever, it's still, well, this is family time, this is my evening, this is my weekend, whatever. There's still that time to actually allow space. And I feel like that's something a lot of people, we don't give ourselves. We're like, well, no, this means, we'll get this
And I
done.
think one of the traps a lot of us fall into is because everything or everyone is so accessible, work still continues when you're at home. You get a WhatsApp message, you get a little Facebook.
Do you know what? This is another thing. Like, I'm so glad you just said that I've definitely noticed a change, and I assume you probably would have as well, business-wise, is that people expect you to reply to messages 24/7. And especially for those of us that are a small business, you're like, there's literally one of me. Like, there's one person, and it's 8 o'clock at night, and no.
Oh no, it's like 1 in the morning, and I'm getting like a message, and I'm like most of the world's asleep right now, including me. Like, well, most of the time, but
I know someone that's phone went off at midnight for a call to do with work, and it was like, send a text, do it to, like, and if you have to send it at that time for whatever reason, send a text, wait till tomorrow for a response. You don't call someone at midnight to ask if you can book in something. Like, that's not it's not okay.
And I mean, this is like a whole separate topic for a second, about boundaries. But again, this is slightly off topic. People forget that you are running a business, you have business operating hours, and that needs to be respected. But
100%.
bringing it in and kind of bringing it to a close, it's just, if you could give everyone who's watching maybe one tip or one coming out of a lockdown tip, what would you ask or say to them? Ooh.
Choose yourself. Like, choose yourself, because I feel like we're so busy choosing everyone else and so busy valuing everyone else's thoughts and opinions and ways that we should do stuff. If you start choosing you start listening to what you need, your mind, body, soul needs, what your life needs, what you want, you get to change everything. Like, it is not selfish to put yourself first. And actually what you find when you do that is you get better relationships. The ones that don't serve you will fall away. And you will also enjoy your life more, because you're not trying to serve everyone else all the time. You serve people by serving yourself, is the bottom line of it. Like, you have to choose yourself.
Felt that. That's awesome. I definitely feel like this went on for longer than 20 minutes, but
yeah. Sorry guys.
No, but like, if something has to be shared, it has to be shared. So hopefully everyone has taken something. I hope you've taken something from this video.
Yeah.
I will, as always. Sorry, say that again.
Let him know in the comments.
Yeah, throw it down below. I will always link Gabby's details. So if you've got any questions or want to check her out, you can definitely find her.
Yeah.
And maybe you're watching this like way out of lockdown.
Yeah.
But you'll probably still take something from this, and just do continue to check in with yourself. Never do something because you feel you have to.
No.
And just remember, there's always, even if you can't see it, there's always an option or a choice of what you can and can't do.
100%.
Gabs, thank you again so much.
So welcome. It's been such a pleasure.
Until the next one.
Thank you.
And as always, if you ever want us to discuss anything or anything, definitely let us know. Can let Gabby know. She does a podcast.
Yeah.
Or do let me know. So from me to you, Gabs, thank you. And from me to you guys, thank you.
Thank you.
See you next week. Bye.
Bye.